Okay, so for this lesson, which is the last one in Unit 4, you definitely want to use your calculator for this. Okay, so I'll pull the calculator up. But what is 30% of 120? And I think most people know that percent is always out of 100, and we always talk about percent out of 100 equals is over of. So most likely your percent proportion would be 30 over 100 equals x over 120. And then when you cross multiply, you get 100x equals 3,600. Divide both sides by 100, and x equals 36. Okay, so we're going to put these percent proportions down and talk about percent increase and decrease. But percent proportion, when we talk about sales or discounts or tips or commissions or just regular percent problems, your proportion should always be the same. And it should always be that percent out of 100 equals is over of. Some people use is over of and they call it part over whole. Either one is fine. I tend to do the is over of one, but either one is fine. When you talk about percent increase or decrease, it's still going to be percent over 100. But what happens now is if there's a change in a price or change in a value, then it could be either change for going up or change going down. The idea is your percent proportion looks like percent over 100 equals the change in value over the original value. So the idea here is when you do the change in value, you're always going to want to do big minus small because you don't want to have any negatives. So set up an algebraic proportion, or it could be an equation, but I tend to do proportions, and then you're going to solve. So Carol works at a computer store. She earns a 4% commission on all of her sales. What amount must she sell to earn a commission? That is going to be $200. So we've got our percent. And we know for sure that the percent is going to be 4. So it's 4 out of 100. And then we say, okay, well, what must she earn? What must she sell if she earns a $200 commission? So the $200 is the commission that she earned of what total sales? Maybe you want to kind of put off to the side that x equals total sales because we're trying to figure out how much she must have sold to get the commission. Commission is a part of what you sell, so your commission will always be less than what you've sold in total. When you solve this, you cross multiply and you're going to get 4x, and then you're going to get 4x equals 20,000. Divide both sides by 4. Again, feel free to use your calculator, and x ends up being 5,000. So this should make sense, that she's got to sell $5,000 worth of merchandise to earn $200 commission. Here's your next one. Carlos purchases a sweater on sale for 30%. The original price of the sweater is $54. How much did Carlos spend on the sweater? So we're trying to figure out what his discount is, okay? So we know that 30% is going to go over 100. It tells you that the original price of the sweater is $54. So this is how much the whole thing cost. Well, what was his discount and how much does he eventually spend for the sweater? So if we cross multiply here, you're going to get 100x equals 1,620. Divide both sides by 100. And next is going to be $16.20. Now here's where you have to be careful. He didn't spend $16.20. What he spent, well, let me back up for a second. His discount was $16.20. So what does Carlos spend for the sweater? Well, the sweater originally cost $54. His 30% discount is $16.20. Then what he spends for the sweater is $37.80. So sometimes when you get your answer, you're not quite done. Let's take a look at the next one. There were 75 members in the drama club last year, but there are only 65 members this year. What's the percent of decrease? Well, here's one of those percent decrease problems where we know that percent out of 100 equals the change in the value over the original value. So what's the percent? Well, we don't know that. So that's where we say X over 100. Well, what's the change in membership? The change in membership, when it went from 75 to 65, they lost 10 members. So the change in membership is 10. Well, what was the original membership? The original membership was 75 because last year is when they had started it. So how do you solve this? Cross multiply. 75x is going to be 1,000. Divide both sides by 75. On your calculator, you're going to get a decimal. So let's just take a look real fast here. Oh, where'd that go? Oh boy, happened again. Let me see if I can drag this thing over. Here we go. So what happens here is when I do 1,000 divided by 75, you're going to get this decimal. I'm fine with it keeping it as a decimal or changing it into a fraction. It doesn't really matter. But if you're going to keep the decimal, sorry about that. If you're going to keep the decimal, it's going to be 13.3 bar %. So the change in membership was 13 1/3%. You could actually even write that if you realize that 0.3 repeating is 13 1/3. I'll take either. Let's try this next one. Sam's employer has promised him a 20% pay increase. He currently earns $15.50 an hour. What will his new hourly pay be after the increase? So we want to find what his increase is. So in this case, we say, all right, well, he's getting a 20% increase, so 20% out of 100. Well, what is his increase of his current pay right now? X over 1550. When you cross multiply, you get 100x, and again, you should be using your calculator, equals 310, and then x becomes 3.10. It's 3.1, but remember, we're talking about money, so you need dollars and cents. So he's not going to have $3.10 as his new salary. What we just found was his salary increase. So what we found is his salary increase, which means if we know that his starting salary was $15.50, he's getting a $3.10 increase. His new hourly wage is going to be $18.60. New salary, or new hourly wage, however you want to do it. So new hourly. Okay, got one more to go. Sam's computer has 126, gigabytes of used space and 21 gigabytes of free space. To the nearest tenth, what % of the total storage is free space? You got to be careful here with the words. What % of total is free? Okay, so what's happening now is we know that total storage, or let's back up for a second. We know that used space is this amount. We know that free space is this amount. Well, what's total space? And that's going to be the 126 that's used, the 21 that's free, for a total of 147. That's total. So now when we do the percent, we say, well, % over 100 is going to be the total, the of, and we know that the free space we happen to have here, what percentage total is free space? The free space is the 21 gigabytes. So X over 100 equals is over of. And we cross multiply here, we get 147x equals 2100. Divide both sides by 147, and x ends up becoming 14.3 something. Let's take a quick look here. So 2100 divided by 147, 147. So it's 14.28, and that's going to run to 14.3. So 14.3 % is how much the free of the total is. All right, so that's it. So basically you've got percent proportion, set those things up, use your calculator, and you should be good. Good luck.